In this video, we're going to be walking through how to use our League of Legends optimizer. This is going to be a really nice tool for you if you're building 15, 20, or more lineups. It's going to help you save some time. We have a lot of nice features that you can use to get your lineups to match what you want them to be, regardless of the projections, but the projections are nice to use as well. You're going to want to have main selected as your mode. There's no late swap in League of Legends. And then backtest is just to go look at a previous slate. Not super essential for League of Legends, but it could be good to check your process. We're going to be doing DraftKings today. You also have FanDuel. DraftKings is a little bit easier as far as the requirements for lineups, so it makes it a little clearer what we want to do. Want to make sure to have League of Legends selected, classic slate, and we're going to be looking at the March 1st slate, the 2-game LPL slate. Scroll down here so we got a little more room. The first thing you can see here is the games filter. You can use this to completely remove teams and or entire games from your player pool. Now on a 2-game slate, we're probably not going to do this, but I'll show you how just in case you're interested in that. So let's say I didn't want any Ultra Prime in my lineups. I can just click on Ultra Prime. That's going to take them out of my pool. Or maybe I don't want an entire game. I can just come down here and click on the date and time, and that will take that whole game out of my pool. We're going to leave them both in there today just since it's a 2-gamer. Down here we have a handful of pretty common optimization settings. You can choose players within a certain salary range, within a certain projection range. You can also set salary cap limits. Some of my best League of Legends wins of all time have come with $15,000 or $20,000 left on the table, so this isn't a super important option for League of Legends, but it's one that you have. You can choose the number of lineups that you want it to produce. Today we're going to do 50 for a nice round number. And then there's 3 options over here to help decide how the optimizer is going to run. First one is optimal mode versus tournament mode. Optimal mode is just going to use the projections, and it's going to give you the top 50 lineups, in this case, since we chose 50, the top 50 lineups projection-wise that meet our criteria. This is your standard optimizer mode. Most optimizers do this. Second option is tournament mode. What tournament mode will do is it will try and take your exposures that you're interested in, and it will try and spread them out a little bit better. So let's say, let's come look at some of the players on this slate here. Let's say you're really on JDG for this slate, which we were. We did choose JDG as one of our teams that we were stacking. And you want to have a lot of Hope and you want to have a lot of Kanabi. And you say, okay, I want 80% of each guy. Well, Hope and Kanabi are the 2 highest projected players on the slate. So if you say you want 80% of Hope and Kanabi, and you don't have it on tournament mode, it's probably going to give you the first 80% of your lineups are going to have both of those guys in them, and then you're going to have 20% of your lineups with neither guy in them. Tournament mode helps prevent that. It tries to spread out your exposures so you don't end up with all the best players that you really like in your first chunk of lineups, and then none of them in your last chunk of lineups. So it's a really good tool, especially for League of Legends. This category here is you can just use their base projection, or you can use their projection assuming that they're going to win. So you can see the projections down here changed when I did that. In League of Legends, you're pretty much hoping that your players are going to win. If they don't win, it's a lot harder to be optimal. A 2-game slate, this maybe isn't quite as important, but if you're looking at like a 5-game LEC slate or a 5-game LCS slate, you're going to want that fantasy points per win feature on. We'll go ahead and leave it on for now. This checkbox here will allow you to have players from opposite teams. You don't typically want to do this on larger slates in League of Legends, but on a 2-game slate, if let's say BLG Top Esports goes to a 3rd game and the games are close, Top Esports wins and they have 50 kills. BLG loses 1-2, but they have 46 kills. We could see an optimal lineup that has both teams represented in it. So we'll go ahead and turn that one on for this 2-game slate. You probably wouldn't want to do that on a bigger slate. This box here is automatically checked. It just is going to ensure that you get 50 lineups. If you have too tight of exposures, it will not force those exposures. So let's say you wanted 80% hope. Well, it can't make 50 lineups using 80% hope, so you have 76% hope. It's just going to make sure that you get your 50 lineups. Randomization percent. This is just taking the projections that you see here and giving them slightly more randomness. For League of Legends, I'd probably say 20, 25, somewhere in there. It's a pretty volatile sport, so projections are by no means gospel, and you want to have some randomness built in and planned into your lineups. This box here, I actually don't think is that important. The optimizer is quite fast, so you won't even probably be able to track this while you're watching it build your lineups. The next section we have done here is stack rules, and there's a lot that you can do with stacking using this tool. The first box is randomly select teams. We really don't want to do this. There's a lot of slates where we are interested in almost every team, but typically there's at least one or two teams that we don't want in our lineups, so we're not going to do randomly select teams. Force captain to the first stack. This is going to take your two stacks, so you have a primary stack here and a primary stack here, or a secondary stack here, and this is just going to say that we want to make sure our captain comes from this primary stack. Our most common build is 4-3, 4 players from one team and 2 players in the team slot from the other team. You don't have to do that every time, but when we do that, we typically want our captain to come from that. So with League of Legends, most of the time you're going to want this box to be checked. This next feature is pretty cool. It will allow you to say that you don't want certain positions in your primary stack or your secondary stack. When we're 4 stacking a team, we're typically targeting high upside, lots of kills. Lots of kills doesn't necessarily do anything for the team slot for that team. So we might say that we don't want our team slot to come from our primary stack. We want to make sure that this is 4 players and not 3 players and the team slot. Similarly, you could say my secondary stack, I don't want to have my 80 carry. 80 carries score really well in wins, so I want to make sure that my 80 carry is coming from my big stack and not from my short stack. So those are just some options. We'll go ahead and stick with just the team one for now. Since it's a 2-game slate, we don't want to get too active here, otherwise we're going to really cut down our options and it might not even give us a full 50 lineups. And down here you can set how much exposure you want to each team. Now we're pretty sold on JDG on this slate, beating Ultra Prime. So I'm gonna say, let's say I want a minimum of 80% of my lineups to have a JDG stack. That's gonna give me 20% here of Ultra Prime, maybe. And if JDG's projections are that much better, it might not give me any Ultra Prime, and I might have to come back and adjust that a little bit. And then in the second series, it's a 2-game LPL slate, so we typically want to have an underdog. So we're favoring BLG here, so let's say maybe 65%. Even though they're the underdog, we want to have a little more exposure to them so that we don't have duplicated lineups. And then player combination rules, we'll come back to that. I actually want to build first so you can kind of see how this looks, and then we can come back to the player combination rules. So we've got our 50 lineups, we've got a little bit of randomness. I'm not going to change any of these settings for now. We want to do tournament mode, fantasy points per win. I forgot to mention this last part here, is you can choose how many unique players you want in each lineup. This is only a 2-game slate, so I'm not going to change it off of 1, otherwise we'll probably run out of options as far as lineups, since there's just only so many combinations you can make. Let's go ahead and optimize this. Okay, and we scroll down here, we can see our lineups. On the right side here, you can see each one. They're currently sorted by fantasy points. So you can see that projection here. And it's going down since they're sorted. You can look through these if you want to, color-coded to help you kind of separate which teams you're looking at here. You can also look at individual player exposures over here by any position or by a specific one. So right now I'm getting a lot of Jungle, mid, ADC captain, that's kind of what I want here. Sprinklings of some other things. I'm guessing this missing lineup is probably double favorite. It's hard to fit two favorites without a value captain. You can just look by each position, make sure that your lineups are doing what you're hoping for. You don't necessarily have to blindly trust these projections. Just go with what you're hoping for. Maybe you go to a position and you see you have too much of one player and not enough of another. Like, we're confident in BLG as an underdog, but I don't know if I necessarily want almost 5 times as much crisp as Mark here. So I can change this exposure and say maybe I only want, maybe I only want 28% max of crisp. That way I get a little bit more Mark in my lineups. You can also look at your exposure to teams. So we got about 80% BLG. That's a little bit high. So I might want to go back up here and say, oh, I need a little bit more top esports. I want to have, at least 30% top esports, and I can rebuild matching that. And these last two sections are really cool. You can see how your teams are built together. Actually, that's this last one. This one is showing you how much is in each stack. So we have a total of 74% JDG. 40 of those are 4-man stacks. 34% of those are 3-man stacks. Sorry, I was highlighting the wrong spot there. 3-man stacks. So you can see, maybe you really like a team, but it's giving you all 3-player stacks for that team. So you might need to tweak that. You can change your exposures here to that. This is max. So if you're getting too many 3-player stacks, you can just turn down your max for 3-player stacks. And this last section is my favorite section. It tells you exactly how much you have of each combination. So there's only 4 teams on the slate, so there's only 4 combinations, and we're sticking with 3 of them. So Ultra Prime, we're only getting with BLG. We're not getting any Ultra Prime top esports combinations, and that's fine with us on the slate since we're pretty confident in JDG and we like BLG as the underdog. And it shows you the exact exposure you have to each one. So this is a really nice tool as well. On a 5-game slate or 4-game slate, you'll have a lot more combinations here, and you can make sure that you're getting what you want to get there. The last section, this player combination rules, this is essentially just a way to manually override this tournament mode that we talked about here. So you can, oh sorry, I was in the wrong section. You can make sure that you're getting the right players that you want. So let's say, let's go back to the Hope Kanavi example. Let's tag Hope, tag Kanavi, and we can say we want both of these guys, so stack between 2 and 2. That means it's going to give you both in at least 5 lineups. So we want to make sure we have 5 lineups of Hope and Kanavi together. And then we can say we want to make sure we have some with only one of these 2 guys, not putting them together. And let's say we do that in 10 lineups. Then we can add that rule. So we're going to have at least 15 lineups here with JDG combinations, because these are JDG players. And 5 of those lineups are going to have both players. 10 of them are only going to have one of Hope or Kanavi. And this is another way that you can customize to make sure that you're getting your exposures spread out in a way that you want them to be. Some other options down here, you can turn off players. You can disable them. You can say, maybe I don't want any doggo. I'm worried about him getting subbed out for Uzi, so I just take off doggo. You can also lock a player. You can say, I'm really confident JDG wins, and I have to have Kanavi in my lineups. I want him to be in the flex in every one of my lineups. Probably not the greatest tool for League of Legends, since you want some captains, some flex for each player. And this little emoji here, you can sort of quasi-adjust how much you like a player or don't like a player. I would probably, for League of Legends, just change the exposures or change the fantasy points up and down to adjust for that. And you can manually change these over here. You can say I want at least 15% Kanavi, or I don't want any more than 60% Elk, or something like that. yeah, that's pretty much it. Once you're done with your lineups, you found the ones that you like, you can just click this green button right here, and that'll give you a CSV that you can upload to DraftKings, or if you're building on FanDuel, you can do the same thing on FanDuel. But this is a really nice tool for League of Legends. Like I said at the beginning, I think it's good if you're making 15, 20, any more than that lineups. That way you're not hand building and taking a really, really long time to do so. And this is extremely custom. I mean, you can get the lineups to be exactly what you want them to be, which is really, really nice. So anyways, that's the League of Legends optimizer. Best of luck in your contest, guys.